It depends if you want to talk about the running backs or not.
Well, yeah, I kind of do want to talk about the running backs.
Okay, let's talk about the running backs then.
Yeah, well, so yeah, no, we've been talking about kind of that running back rotation and how that's gone for, or how that was going to go, right? Whether they were going to keep three, keep four. So Tyler did cut Larry Rountree in his latest roster projections. So, thank you for taking the hit. But I sort of do think we're at the point where I kind of do think they're going to keep all four running backs. I know a lot of the beat writers have said Justin Jackson is the guy to cut because he's an impending free agent, but like I just think he's shown you too much over the years, and specifically in this training camp. With some of that explosion he showed, just that like he's not cuttable, right? Like Joshua Kelley cannot do what he does. Larry Rountree, I don't think can do what he does, and so that's just kind of where we are with it. But to me, and the risk of cutting Larry Rountree or Joshua Kelley, of course, is that another team picks them up, and then suddenly you wasted a draft pick, right? Particularly in the case of Joshua Kelley, a pretty high fourth round pick that came after they traded up for Kenneth Murray. So,
yeah.
To me, I think it's going to be four. I know why people would predict it would be three either way. Steven cut Joshua Kelley. Tyler cut Larry Rountree, but I'm gonna be the running back centrist. How about they all have fun and they all make the roster?
There you go. And Tyler did point out that Larry Rountree is kind of, rotating more so with Darius Bradwell, which is unfortunate. I would like to see him get some more run, obviously, but I think if he's able to shine through in some preseason games, and same thing for Joshua Kelley, like they'll make their case. But I think it's either they cut Kelley or they keep four. Like, I mean, Rountree was a 6th round pick, and I get that, but I mean, they did just draft him. Like, and this coaching staff, like they have reportedly like shown throughout the stages, like they're going to keep whoever they think is the best player. But I have a hard time believing that they cut a player that they drafted this year. So if they do cut a running back, I do think it's going to be Kelley, but I think it seems it's more like that they keep all four. And I know that everybody's kind of frustrated with Justin Jackson's ability to stay healthy or lack thereof, but he's just like so much better than the other guys. And Joe Lombardi's comments were pretty telling. Like he was talking about Austin Ekeler and how well-rounded he thinks Ekeler is and how excited he is to coach him. And then he was like, also, by the way, I feel the same way about Justin Jackson. Like he went out of his way to make sure that everybody knows that they like Jackson and they like his ability to, go out in routes and make plays in the screen game like they do with Ekeler. So I think those two will be a fun 1-2 punch. We talked to Jeff Duncan about their, 21 personnel, the pony package, about how they use 2 running backs. And you get Ekeler and Jackson on the field at the same time, you get a lot of options, right? You can motion one of them to like fake a jet sweep and then run a wheel route. Other one runs, kind of a flat route. Like you get some options there with that flexibility, and then we'll see what happens with like the kind of physical back between Rountree and Kelley. But I mean, Jackson's making the roster. Like he's not getting cut.
Yeah, I totally get some of the arguments for cutting him. I understand that, but Justin Jackson compared to the 2 running backs, Joshua Kelley and Kalen Ballage last year, was better than them in yards after contact per attempt, missed tackles forced per attempt, breakaway percentage, yards per route run, as well as receiving yards, yards per reception, yards after the catch per reception, missed tackles forced as a receiver, and passer rating when targeted. So I don't understand
significantly better too.
Yeah, no, and granted, it was Kelley and Ballage. Like I'm not saying that. Oh my gosh, Christian McCaffrey here, but like he was significantly better in almost every category compared to those guys, and you can't just cut that guy. And to me, when they're running their outside zone and that running back has to choose whether to bounce it outside or cut through the B gap or whatever, I think Jackson's running style, to work this offense, obviously he's trying to run north, but they work horizontally before they cut north or before they go north in the run game. I think Jackson just suits that so much better than, 2 guys that are just kind of 3 yards in a cloud of dust. And then you need that kind of guy. But, I'm just like, if you need a short yardage guy, let's say you absolutely need a short yardage guy, you got Herbert, you got Neighbors. Like I do think you do have an opportunity to use those guys in some way, but you don't need to keep 4 running backs. To me, it's just a giant waste. And there are so many other players. We didn't really talk about Anderson much, but I'd rather keep Steven Anderson. I'd rather keep that wide receiver 6. they might need to keep a 7th wide receiver considering all the injuries right now. And I just don't see the use, honestly, in keeping both running backs. And, even though they did just draft Rountree, I've said this a billion times already, but they've cut a running back before in the same season they drafted him. But also, to them, yeah, they just drafted him, but they could also look at it as, well, we retained 8 rookies. They have 9 to pick from, and getting all 9 on the roster. How often do all 9 make it anyway? I get it's a new coach and there's a lot of turnover, but there are, like, if they cut Rountree, they're still keeping 8, and Rountree was, I believe, their second 6th round pick, right? So it's not even like he's their first 6th round pick. So, I get it. Like, I could totally see how my roster prediction would change and that they wouldn't end up keeping Rountree or both. I totally get that. But for right now, you're rotating with Darius Bradwell, who, Anthony Lynn tried as hard as he could to make him something, and nothing came of it. And he's still rotating with that guy. So, we'll see. But for right now, I'm going to cut one of them. And based on the reps, it's Rountree.
Yeah, so I totally see kind of what you're saying there, right? And I totally agree. Like, they do the similar things, right? Like,
very similar
Kelley
players.
is more comparable to, right, very similar players. And you could just say, if I have to cut one, like, it would be one of those guys just because they're kind of redundant on the roster, I feel like, together. But, the alternative to that is, I think Justin Jackson is a free agent after this year, right? So do you want to spend another draft pick on a running back next year? And then, of course, Justin Jackson's health, as much as we don't want to talk about it, like, it is a thing, right? So if he does get hurt, would I rather have, the next man up, or, try to just kind of plan around that, right? Because if you cut Larry Rountree, or if you cut Joshua Kelley, then, like, I don't know, who's your 4th running back? Like, Tremaine Pope? Are we bringing him back? Or are we, like, trying to, like, kind of rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic a little bit?